And the Senate passed a bipartisan criminal justice bill late Tuesday. President Trump threw his support behind the First Step Act last month. The House already passed a version of the bill, but now has to approve the Senate's before President Trump can sign it into law. Republican Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia introduced the legislation in the House with New York Democrat Hakeem Jeffries. He joins me now from Capitol Hill. Representative Collins, welcome. It's so great to have you with us.
We're glad to be here.
So, Representative Collins, the New York Times estimates that this bill will only affect about 7,000 inmates who could be released early, and that's less than 4% of the federal prison population. Could we then call it an overhaul?
Oh, we can, because this is just the initial ones who will be affected immediately. This is something going forward that affects our entire criminal justice system from the perspective of making sure that our earned time credit is calculated properly. We're looking at mandatory minimum sentences on low-risk drug offenders being from 3 strikes and basically life imprisonment to 25 years. This is a going forward progress. We have to look at the fact of where we're at right now and where we have been, and that's why we started this bill in the first place in the House, to make sure that we could get the proposals we needed in so that the Senate could work together with us to make the bill that we currently have. So this is a win for everyone. This is about people, and this is one of the best things I've seen in Congress in a long time.
And the version passed by the Senate, are you pleased with it? Were there lots of changes made?
We were working with the Senate from day one on this process. It started when we sent our bill over there. We knew that we needed to add some things so that we could make sure that we got a good vote out of the Senate. So my office has been working with them all along. So these changes are things that we had already anticipated, and we helped them come to a good agreement. They brought some great ideas to the table. I'm very proud of the senators, Senator Grassley and Lee and Durbin and Booker, and many others over there who worked very hard on this to get to where we're at now. So this is an example of Congress and the legislative process doing it right.
And as you're probably not surprised, there are some members of your own party who are some of the conservatives that supported those tough on crime policies of the 90s who are critical of the bill. And Republican Senator Tom Cotton wrote about the bill in an op-ed this week, quote, "A number of serious felonies, including violent crimes, are still eligible for early release. The First Step Act flunks their basic test to protect public safety." How would you respond to that?
I think really Senator Cotton's analysis unfortunately fails the basic test of logic in the sense that it doesn't take into account that everything that we've done up to this point is getting us recidivism rates of 70% or better in many areas, and then you have a pattern of crime and you have a pattern of things that continue because of the process in our federal prisons don't work. So what we got to look at is if this was working, then we wouldn't have to be looking at this, but we know it doesn't work. So let's make sure that we get people the treatment, the help that they need. We're making sure that this bill is crafted to where we're not releasing violent felonies. That was just a scare tactic by many. I don't think you get much more conservative than myself, who's my father is a Georgia State Trooper. I look at law enforcement, and I understand the need for punishment, but we've also got to understand there's a money and moral aspect here, and that moral aspect says that people who can take it and who want to be a part of redemption can have that as well. It's sad that we continually look backwards to policies that don't work, claiming that new policies would never be the same.
Sure, and of course we want people to be prepared to re-enter society productively for their communities and their families. All right, so the President's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has received praise for his efforts on criminal justice reform. What's your assessment of Kushner's role in all of this?
He has been with us since day one on this. This is what's been an amazing process that shows that the legislative triad here actually works, the House, the Senate, and the White House. And I can remember early on last year meeting with him, and as he began to get up to speed with who's involved in the politics of this issue and why it never was accomplished under the previous administration and why that we may have a chance to do it now, he has been such a valuable partner. He and I have talked, I can't even count the number of times, and he has been very active in making sure members come along, outside groups come along, and he's taken the time to meet with everybody, even with those who had problems, to say, is there a way that we can get you on board? I think the vote in the House, the vote in the Senate, with the work that we've done with him and others, has shown that it works.
So, Representative Collins, it looks like Congress will pass another term spending this week with the Democratic majority coming in. Has President Trump lost his best chance, do you think, to get Congress to fund a border wall?
I would have liked to have seen our partners in Democrats understand that border security has to be a part of anything in immigration. I believe this is a good time for us to fix this. I am concerned with where we're moving forward because I don't believe that there was enough effort put into it, and I think Mr. Schumer and Ms. Pelosi have never answered the basic question. Just a few years ago, Mr. Schumer voted for a much larger expanded security package, and even 10 to 15 years ago, President Obama and others talked about people coming into our country. This is a simple thing that the President has talked about, that people understand, and it's about putting American citizens citizens' needs and interests ahead of those who are trying to come here illegally, not legally. Legal immigration is something we can work on. But I wish we would have a fight about this. I think that this is a problem that we're going to have to look at. The House will get the bill if the Senate passes it today, and we'll see where it goes from there. But at some point, this is a discussion that needs to happen.
Vote for a continuing resolution?
For the continuing resolution, if it passes, then we'll continue this fight till February, and we'll see where it goes there.
I want to ask you, though, about funding the border wall when the deficit is ballooning. I mean, wouldn't many Republicans who are fiscal conservatives say, look, we can be strong on border policy, we can be strong on security, but maybe we don't need to spend all that money on the border wall when our deficit is ballooning?
Well, compared to many other things that we spend money on in programs that are duplicative in the federal government, which we could go through at length if you would like to on how we do, 12 and 13 different programs for the same housing program. When we spend millions of dollars and upwards of billions of dollars on these kind of programs. And it's interesting to me, though, is that when Democrats don't want to fund the wall, they talk about the deficit. But when they want to fund expansions of other programs, there's no talk of deficit. So I think this is a decision and discussion that is honest from both sides, but we also have to cut through the very heart of the issue and say, let's have immigration enforcement. Let's work on this, and let's work on making our legal immigration system in which we have it in a processed and orderly fashion. We can't just simply say this is not something we want to work on.
And Representative Collins, you will be the top Republican on the House Judiciary Committee in the new Congress. How do you plan on working with Democrats in 2019?
Well, I think I have a pretty good record of working across the aisle. I mean, we see the First Step Act, which is going to be signed into law this week. Also, Hakeem Jeffries and I passed the Music Modernization Act, which is a rewrite of our copyright system in dealing with our music and streaming music that we've had. We've also dealt in data protection. So I've worked across the aisle on many occasions to pass big bills this year. I've told Mr. Chairman Nadler, I said, is he incoming chairman? Mr. Chairman, if you want to go off on tangents and go to places on investigations, that we're going to stand up and we're going to be counted. We're going to fight for not only this institution but the administration, but also we're going to say when you're ready to legislate, when you want to work together, I'm more than happy, and my credentials will say that I work with them on many things.
Well, Congressman Doug Collins, congratulations on your work crafting a solid piece of bipartisan legislation. I think a lot of Americans are happy to see that. Congress working together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you.